alumni, and our honored guests. Each of us is here tonight because we understand and honor the principle that important research is the key that distinguishes a good university from a great one. Here at CSUB, we know that it is through research that our students are able to unlock the mysteries of the world around them. And with that key, they also unlock their own potential, their own talents, and their perceptions of what they are able to achieve and conquer with their exceptional faculty mentors leading them on. The spark that is ignited within our students burns well beyond their days at CSUB, for that is the beauty of research. The discovery process reshapes our imagination and remaps the terrain in our minds and hearts. One question leads to another question, and those questions, they lead to discoveries and solutions and progress, not just for today or tomorrow, but for generations. Our student research scholars are working to expand and deepen our understanding in areas that have real world implications. They're doing cancer research, mental health research, addiction research, crop research, and much more. One student research scholar project is exploring the role of virtual reality in learning and accessibility by creating a game useful for students with special needs. Like so many of you, John and I are committed supporters to the President's Associates. And like you, we wondered at this outset of this pandemic if CSUB research would suffer from the distance and the isolation this pandemic has required. Would our geology students still be able to conduct their research on earthquakes in the Kern River Gorge? Would our business students still be able to track the growth in our local economy? Would our kinesiology students still be able to work with faculty members to explore mobility issues in the elderly? The answer, my friends, likely does not shock you. It is a resounding yes. Research has not only continued at CSUB, it is thriving. Our innovative faculty members have designed new ways and safe ways to keep our students engaged in research. And for that, we must thank you, our supporters. CSUB research is funded entirely because you believe that miracles in the lab, in the field, and yes, in the homes of our students are possible. To illustrate the point that our research is thriving, I would like to share a story with you that fills me with pride and is a great point of distinction and honor for our entire community. Recently, Dr. Anna Jacobson and Dr. Brandon Pratt were part of a group of scientists featured in the prestigious proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Dr. Jacobson and Dr. Pratt are co-authors on groundbreaking research on how vegetation has changed following tree mortality during drought. Students, faculty, and friends, research at CSUB is addressing the big questions of our time, and you make that happen. I thank you, and I thank the community. And now, I would like to introduce the moderator of tonight's event, Mr. Danny Rodella.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zalesny. And just like you, I'm honored to be here with such distinguished guests tonight. Here at CSUB, we value and appreciate the time you all set aside to be here with us. My name is Danny Rodella, and I'm the Director of Annual Giving and Stewardship at CSUB. And my job this evening is to ensure that you all have a wonderful experience, and I look forward to delivering on that. But before we delve into the all-star presentation lineup we've prepared for you, I wanted to go ahead and recognize our donors and illustrious guests who honor us with their presence tonight. As leaders in our community, we value your commitment to CSUB and hope you enjoy the programming tonight. Having said that, several representatives from the Office of Grants, Research, and Sponsored Programs join us as well. And their role is to advance research, creative and sponsored activities to enhance teaching and learning at CSUB. Mr. Vincent Orguam and Mr. Manuel Barrera worked tirelessly to make this work possible. And gentlemen, we want to commend you for your extraordinary work to benefit the university, our community, and the region. We also want to recognize the Walter Stern Library that supports students as they pursue their research endeavors as well. Dr. Sandra Botzard is currently interim dean for the library, and we're grateful for her leadership in the empowerment of our students via access to critical learning resources. Dr. Botzard, we salute you tonight and thank you for your leadership. This evening, 4 deans also join us to denote their pride and support for the research teams representing their schools. And although 2 of them have students representing their schools until March 10th, they didn't want to miss tonight's series nor the chance to meet you. So I'll go ahead and start by introducing the dean of the school I graduated from, and I promise I have no bias in doing so. Dr. James Rodriguez is here tonight as Dean of the School of Social Sciences and Education, followed by Dr. Robert Frakes, who joins us as Dean of the School of Arts and Humanities, as well as Dr. Todd McBride, who is Interim Dean for the School of Natural Sciences, Mathematics, and Engineering, followed by Dr. John Stark, Interim Dean for the School of Business and Public Administration. Esteemed deans, thank you so much for delighting us with your presence and showing your support for the Student Research Scholars Program and our panelists this evening. However, we can't forget to acknowledge the other student research scholars and faculty mentors here with us tonight. They're here in support of their peers and to demonstrate their commitment to this great program. Their projects also reflect unique learning experiences that, like President Zelezny said in her welcome remarks, address topical issues in medicine, engineering, criminal justice, international relations, among other fields. You might be asking yourself this question though, how can I learn more about these projects? Well, I'm glad you asked, because from March 9th to March 26th, student research scholars will also participate in a virtual student research competition. That's right, a virtual student research competition. How exciting. And a full version of their presentations will be available online for your enjoyment. So I highly recommend you visit the website starting March 9th, where you'll have a chance to learn more about their fascinating research, and I'll make sure to send you the link to the website after tonight's program. Next, we have our first presentation. How exciting, which by the way, I can assure you will be extraordinary. And although I'm tempted to steal Dr. Keller's thunder in bragging about his exceptional mentee, I'll be kind and refrain from doing so and opt to boast about him instead, because after all, he's a fantastic educator and researcher that students admire. However, don't take my word for it and go ahead and visit ratemyprofessor.com and you'll be able to confirm that for yourselves. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kane Keller, an assistant professor in the Department of Biology here at CSUB. He obtained his PhD from Michigan State University, and his area of research expertise is community ecology. He has served 3 years as a faculty mentor in the Student Research Scholars Program and currently mentors 3 students. When I asked Dr. Keller about his favorite hobby, he responded, and I quote, "Collecting and raising cacti and succulents." I love it. Dr. Keller, how do you feel tonight?
I was not expecting a rate my professors. I haven't checked that. I don't know what's there.
You have 5 stars,
I'll
Dr.
take your
Keller, so
word
don't
for it.
worry about it.
Well,
How do you feel tonight?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Danny. Very, very kind. And so it's an honor to be able to speak with you all today and to be able to introduce an outstanding student research scholar that's in my lab, Caitlin Cortez. Before I do so, I'll keep my comments really brief. For those of you that know me know that that's really difficult for me to do, so I'm going to try really hard. And give her as much time to talk research as possible. But importantly, I've had incredible mentors throughout my career. And so they help me navigate academia, which can be difficult at times. Help me navigate, and formulate the much of who I am now in terms of career and research interest and the paths that I've taken. Ultimately, they really were pretty pivotal at influencing my passion for education, research, and importantly, one thing I want to mention now is mentoring. Mentoring is one of those opportunities that I just really cherish as part of my job, and I feel very fortunate to be able to have. When everything changed in our lives a year ago, we quickly transitioned our teaching and we poured ourselves into trying to make that as smooth and as normal as possible. But we were pretty uncertain of how research and mentoring would proceed. Yet nevertheless, we were pretty determined to persist. And through this determination, we could provide some regularity to our lives. And even though it's different than before, this has been a unique year. And I'm sure you all are thinking, yeah, that's the understatement of the century. But with a little creativity, a little dedication, and critically the support of the SRS program and each of you that are here, including presidents, associates, donors, family, friends, peers, colleagues at the university, we've tried to navigate through as much of this normalcy as possible. Of course, it's been difficult, right? It's certainly slowed down some progress. We all understand that. We expect that. It would be unrealistic for us to expect otherwise. But it has far from stopped our research. And instead, it's just given us an opportunity to think a little bit differently. We have amazing students and a wonderful program, and it's allowed me and my mentee, Caitlin Cortez, to continue with subsets of our research program that was ongoing before the pandemic. And so it's really my privilege to be able to introduce Caitlin Cortez tonight. She's been an undergraduate researcher in my lab for the past 2 years, helping with tons of projects in the lab and ultimately taking an interest in one of those projects, which you're about to hear a lot more about. She's a fantastic student and no doubt is going to be an incredible professional scientist. In addition to her research in my lab, she was part of an NSF RU program at the University of Illinois. She's worked in biological consulting here in town. She was an intern as part of a lab at NYU. And then most recently, she was also a congressional intern for the Panetta Institute for Public Policy. And so in addition to all of that, she's already building a long list of awards and professional achievements that is no doubt just going to continue to grow over the years. Now that I'm sure that I've already enhanced any nerves that she might have, I'm going to turn the stage over to Caitlin and take it away.
Hi, I just want to say thank you to the organizers, the SRS program, the President's Associates, and Danny Rodella for inviting me to speak today. I'm excited to be here with you and share the research that I've been doing with my advisor, Dr. Keller. And I am extremely grateful that it has been made possible even through the pandemic, especially now. Most of us flock to the outdoors because of the joy that we get from the diverse views that we come across during our time outside. And for these things to happen, a variety of complex interactions are constantly occurring and creating the environment that we gravitate to so much. As a matter of fact, our fascination with these interactions is what brought me and Dr. Keller to our current research, which I will be sharing a little about today. Dr. Keller's lab focuses largely on species interactions, many of which include legumes. You are more than likely well familiar with them as soybeans or other beans and peas. They're abundantly grown agriculturally, but many types of legumes are found in natural systems. Legumes are particularly important to us because they form a mutually beneficial relationship with bacteria who can take nitrogen from the air and change it into a form that is more accessible to plants. As I said, that is a mutually beneficial relationship. This is what we call a mutualism. Mutualisms are something that you see every day. For example, honeybees and flowers form a mutualism as the flowers get pollinated by the bees to make their fruit, and the bees get pollen to make their honey. Our favorite Disney mutualism, seen on Finding Nemo, between anemones and clownfish is structured on the fact that anemones give clownfish shelter and protection, and the clownfish provide nutrients to the anemones. For a lot of species, the most limiting factors for their success and growth is limited nutrients. The ability to acquire resources is the make or break. For everyone, it determines success. And while these mutualisms are one effective strategy for nutrient acquisition, another strategy used by plants is to produce chemicals that attack individuals also competing for those limiting nutrients. This interaction, where one plant produces a chemical that inhibits another, is referred to as allelopathy. And the end goal of this interaction is to weaken or kill the competition, therefore increasing its chances of gaining access to all the resources around it and increasing its chances of success. You either flourish or perish. So we wanted to see how these two competitive strategies would interact with each other. How is the legume bacteria mutualism affected by the presence of an allelochemical? So we set up an experiment to evaluate the growth success of a legume plant in response to the presence of these beneficial nitrogen converting bacteria and an allelochemical at different concentrations. We are currently 3 months into the experiment. We have about 3 more months left, but we just recently collected some preliminary data. And there are some early emerging trends that could suggest the legumes and their associated bacteria are negatively affected by the allelopathic chemical that we added. This response was what we predicted, and we may expect this trend to hold up, but we'll know more officially in 3 months. And it will be interesting either way. So why does all this matter though? Understanding the outcome of these interactions could help us understand important mechanisms underlying how allelopathic species may negatively affect leguminous plants in natural systems. But moreover, it can affect the way we approach intercropping in agricultural systems where allelopathic plants are present. It can lead to greater output and utilization of land or an alternative to common pesticide usage, which could decrease stress on natural ecosystems and improve soil quality and capacity. One thing I really love about this research is that it seeks to add more understanding to what we know about basic biology, but it can also apply to agricultural systems where it affects everyday society. It absolutely resonated with me that research like this could contribute to a knowledge base that could restore the planet and resolve some of society's largest challenges. So I'd like to thank you, the donors, for allowing us the opportunity to contribute to the scientific community and our local community.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Isn't this wonderful? I mean, I feel like I want to get up and I just want to like give her a round of applause and give Dr. Keller a round of applause. I mean, it's simply amazing. How about we do that? How about we have Caitlin and Dr. Keller a round of applause? I mean, Caitlin, I know you put a lot of work into this along with Dr. Keller into this research project, and I can't fathom how much effort it took to condense a significant amount of information into a short 5-minute presentation. Great work. Great work.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Now we move into the arts and humanities presentation, and let me say that you're in for a treat. However, I must continue to uphold my vow of silence when it comes to boasting about Professor Jeremy Warner's mentee. But that won't be an issue because there's so much to acknowledge about this great and talented professor who will do a fantastic job of presenting his mentee to you tonight. Mr. Warner is an assistant professor in the Department of Communications here at CSUB. He obtained his master's in fine arts from Temple University, and his research interests include virtual reality, new technologies, real-time rendering, and exploration of media semiotics. He has served for 2 years as a faculty mentor in the Student Research Scholars Program and currently mentors 1 student. A few fun facts about Professor Warner are that he loves playing video games, assembling jigsaw puzzles, and camping. You sound like a great person to hang out with, Professor, and I'm sure that Danny feels the same way about you too. So without further delay, the virtual stage is yours, Mr. Warner. Please take it away.
Hey, so thank you. So basically I came from the film industry. Well, actually before that I was in academia and then moved to the film industry, and I worked in the film industry from 2009 to 2015, 16 when one of my former students from Cal State Fullerton and I started our own virtual reality development business. And so I started moving into that way, and then I got hired on at Cal State Bakersfield, and because I love teaching. And I also received, right before I was hired on, a grant from CSU to do a virtual reality prototype game called Saddle Goose Studios that was an educational game. So when I came to CSU, you know, bringing in the VR, bringing in a lot of different things, it was extremely exciting because there was like open ground, there's a lot of space, there's a lot of things that we can do here. The digital media department was ready to be retooled and revised in some ways, and they were very open to it, and that was what was super exciting. And so then I'm able to meet, I mean, the students that are coming in are absolutely amazing, and they're not working with, hey, this is exactly how we did it in the 1960s. They actually work more with like, hey, this is, you can do what you want. All you got to do is put it down on a piece of paper and tell me where you're going, and we're going to see what goes wrong and what goes right and whatnot. And that's, you know, a lot of what the industry's been looking for in the different areas. So Danny came into my office, getting back to the story of Danny though, comes in my office and he sits down. I remember he was all scared and he's like gripping his knees or something like that, and with a little bow tie. I think you had a bow tie on that day. Anyways, and so he comes in and he's all scared and he's like, and I said, yeah, we teach video game analysis, or we teach video games and we teach real time. And his face just lit up. He took a 2310 class, which is media arts with me, and he was the only person I think who has ever done the 200 hours of streaming on Twitch to get the extra credit, which is a lot of streaming time. So he got extra credit for streaming and doing the broadcast for that class, which is only extra credit in that class. So that's kind of where Danny came, and he came to me. He's like, I know I have a couple issues with it, and I'll let him tell you about that. And he's like, can I do this? And I was like, yes, you can do this. Get it together. You have it. It's all there. So I will introduce Danny, or Nestor Martinez, and he can tell you then about his research and really exciting stuff that also applies to some of the stuff that I've been doing in my virtual reality research too. So go ahead, Danny.
Hey, Jeremy. Thank you so much for the very nice introduction. And you're right, but I'll get into why I was so nervous when I went into your office. I'd like to just thank everyone that's attending right now. It means a lot to both me and Jeremy and all of the students that are researching. These sort of opportunities don't come that often, and I feel that when I was given this opportunity and given the chance to do something that I felt really passionate about, it kind of made me feel this sort of revitalization into something that I really wanted to get into. So as you guys can see here to my right here, what I've been working on over the past couple of months in researching is a video game. It's a virtual reality video game, and this specific video game is all about being accessible to students with disabilities. And before I get into that, I'd like to just kind of tell you what exactly motivated me into getting into this and doing this in the first place. It was in the summer of 2019. I took a trip down to Coffee Campground in Kern County, and it led to a realization that many students can be limited in their life experiences. And the reason I say this is because my little brother, he's actually in special needs. He's actually right here. He's the one I'm helping out. My brother, he's disabled, and it's kind of led me to question the potential of our education's future with the help of new technologies. And this new technology that me and Jeremy feel so very passionate about, we see a lot of potential in this, and we see a lot of new ways of learning and a lot of new ways of being accessible to everyone, not just everyone who's not disabled, but even students who are disabled that are much more limited in their motor skills. So as Jeremy was saying earlier, after 6 years of me at CSUB, I returned to CSUB after being actually academically disqualified. And it was a very dark time that I was going through. I was not the best student. And I met Jeremy, and it was in the beginning of my return to CSUB in fall. And I planned out everything with him in his office, and we kind of laid out the future of CSUB, and I had returned feeling really scared because I did not want to fail again, and I didn't want to let anyone down. And because of people like Jeremy, a lot of the faculty in the arts and humanity, amazing people that I've met, it's led me with amazing guidance with them. I've consistently been placed on the dean's list now 3 times in a row, and I couldn't be happier with my success and in terms of my academics. And I'm going to be finished with school very soon, and I'm just very happy to finish to what I started. On to what I've been researching. This is what kind of led me to it. It was my little brother. Essentially, his limitations were something that I felt were heartbreaking for me because he could not go out. We needed to go home immediately after we got into the campground because of his limitations. And so I figured, a lot of the experiences that he goes through, he can't. He can't go hiking, he can't go swimming, he can't go look at any beautiful views. And I figured, you know, a lot of students just want to see different views from different places around the world. And I figured, you know, why not bring this to him? Why not kind of show him what a very magical orange looking place looks? And as you guys can see right now, I made two different builds, one of them being a very autumn theme, which is what I asked him all about. What colors do you like? How do you want me to build it? And we kind of talked it through with this very limited speaking. He kind of just told me colors, and then I made him a realistic view, which is something a bit more closer to Kern County. And so over the past couple of months, I have been researching what does it take to make a VR, because believe it or not, at the beginning of this research, I had no idea what to do, even how to build a game. And I got to the point where I can actually make the scenery and make it look nice. I want to just quickly talk about 4 core pillars of what it takes to make a good VR, because they're important to go over. The 4 core pillars to making a virtual reality build is, first is presence, immersion, comfort, and performance. You need these 4 to make a really good and strong and safe virtual reality experience for students, especially with students with disabilities, because there can be a lot of sicknesses that come with this. There could be stomach aches, nausea, vomiting, all of these things that you really have to consider. And so I'm working in a very delicate area. Presence is kind of just making it's all about making the users feel present in the scene. Realistic immersion. Immersion is all about the art of making the users feel as if they are truly surrounded by the living and breathing world. So I could making sure that I put realistic sounds around the build. So making sure I put waterfalls, the wind, maybe birds chirping in the distance. You know, make it realistic. The third one is comfort. So comfort is all about kind of making sure that users have options. So a lot of the students with disabilities, a lot of them deal with different things, motion sickness, and I would have to make sure that my game adjusts to a lot of the different discomforts that students feel. And so, for example, my little brother, his discomfort is his wide view. He needs a very narrow view. So what I did was I went ahead and narrowed his view in the game so that it looks like he's only looking through a hole.
It seems like we lost connection here. Yeah, we lost connection here. So while we wait for Danny to get back on the Zoom call, we're going to go ahead and just put a pause there. And then Ellie, if we could just go ahead and go to our KGET video, because I think based on what we've heard so far from both of our student research scholars, one thing that's evident: impact. We've seen the impact our donors have had through their philanthropy in terms of this discovery that our students are really being engaged in. And so, you know, I think it's appropriate for us to highlight at this point our President's Associates Giving Society. You know, this evening would not be possible without the support of our steadfast donors. Through their generosity, the President's Associates help sponsor research that enhances the student learning experience and transforms our region. And we could even say transformed lives in the process, because we see how our students are being impacted by this philanthropy. You know, a couple of years ago, student research scholars Tony Ramirez and Carol Casas, along with their faculty mentor, Dr. William Crew, were interviewed by KGT regarding their earthquake-related research. You might recall President Zelensky alluding to their work in her welcome remarks, and we had just experienced the Ridgecrest earthquake. Show of hands, how many of you remember that? Yeah, and the media reached out to CSUB for input. The short video that I'm about to share with you tells the story better than I can, and I hope you enjoy it.
Marks new beginnings, which holds true for CSUB.
The university is expanding programs to bring research opportunities to aspiring scientists on campus here in town. This is so exciting. Tabitha joining us this morning with more.
CSUB, there's a lot of great things going on right now there on that campus.
This is really neat.
This is one of them, yeah. They're not just expanding it, but they're doubling the numbers of research scholarships, which means more students on campus will have the opportunity to do groundbreaking research right here in our community.
I mean, I was working on the slope map. It's amazing. It's not something that I imagined I'd be doing, but I'm highly excited.
Imagine the opportunity to be paid to research your passion.
To be given just creativity to pursue earthquakes, I find amazing. It's almost like living your dream.
That's the reality for Tony Ramirez and Carol Casas, grad students in the geology department at CSU Bakersfield.
Humbling experience in a sense because you work with these amazing people that have this great knowledge and to be mentored by them, and it's very humbling.
Their research focused on the Kern River watershed, the area along Highway 178 to Lake Isabella, collecting samples, running labs and trials to answer the question, what would happen if an earthquake triggered a landslide in the canyon? A timely and important topic after the 7.1 magnitude earthquake rocked eastern Kern County a month ago, causing rocks to fall along 178. The biggest concern, debris from a landslide damming the river.
Those dams tend to fail, and they can fail catastrophically, and so we can send a lot of water and debris really quickly down into Bakersfield. So it's a hazard, not likely to happen, but it's something that we want to make sure that we know, okay, what is the likelihood that it could happen, and what is the plan to address that.
Ramirez and Casas are paid a stipend through the President's Associates.
It's just that little extra, and then that way you don't have to worry about other financial expenses, and you can just devote that time for your research.
The program raised more than $150,000 during its last campaign, doubling the number of research scholarships provided to students on campus.
A lot of people don't know CSUB is involved in research. We think of research in terms of the big universities throughout the country. Well, CSUB is actually conducting research because of this program.
The runners and their research now recognized by the scientific world's brightest minds, paving the way for a bright future.
The National Science Foundation awarded CSUB a 5-year, $5 million CRUST program grant that is also being used to support student research at CSUB and in the Kern River Canyon. I mean, there's a lot of great things going on at CSUB right now. And he's right. A lot of people think major research doesn't happen in our community. Nope, not true. It is happening for the runners.
And I think that's so important too, is that especially with the earthquakes that we've seen recently, you know, and I know a lot of concern is, of course, the Kern River Valley and especially the Lake Isabella Dam, and you just saw kind of the research that they're doing. They're doing it here in our own backyard, which is fantastic.
It's going to help people in some way or some form in the future, and it's great. And it's not just in geology. I mean, it's medical research. It's a lot of different things that are happening.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room before I say anything else. For those of you wondering if that beardless man was me, it was. But on a serious note, though, the community is witnessing how vital this program is because it, places CSUB at the vanguard of research in the Valley that local media outlets can depend on. Do we have Danny back on the Zoom call?
Yes, I'm right here.
Hey, Danny, go ahead, please take it away.
I don't know when exactly I got cut off. I think it was around the 4 core pillars, and I kept on talking the entire time, and I just realized I was talking to myself the whole time. So I'll try to pick up exactly where I left off. And so I think I left off around the 4 core pillars area, and so I'll pick up maybe from the second one. Like I was mentioning, I'll quickly just try to go over it as quickly as I can, but when it came to making this build, there was 4 things that I learned what it takes to make make a really good VR build and a safe one. And I mentioned it was presence, immersion, comfort, and performance. Immersion kind of was just all about the art of making the users feel as if they are truly surrounded by the living, breathing world. And so it's all about using sounds and making sure that you use realistic sounds in your world so that it can kind of match with what you're seeing. Comfort is another one that I realized was very vital in terms of making it safe for a lot of the people that are going to be playing this build. And so when it comes to VR, there's a lot of risk that you're taking, because especially students with disabilities, there's a lot of motion sickness, there's a lot of nausea, there's a lot of disorientation that can happen, and it's all about kind of adjusting your build so that you can make sure that everyone's kind of everyone's attended for and that everyone can kind of feel safe. And it's all about making him feel comfortable. And the example that I gave earlier was my little brother, who's right below me here. His kind of comfort was at making sure I narrow the point of view for him. And so for him, it was all about making sure that I narrow his view and not making him feel so wide. Other people might have something different, but what I'm kind of making sure that I, adjust a lot of the tweaks on the game so that everyone can feel comfortable using it. And then the last one was performance. It's all about making sure that my game is strong enough so that to run smoothly. So when a person puts on the VR goggles and they're moving their head and they're looking around, I want to make sure that the image translated into the screen is smooth and it's kind of moving fast enough for the person moving their head. Because if you move your head and you move your eyes and then the picture takes too long, you'll get very.
I think thinking about what he said so far, when we're looking at the fact that he went through academic disqualification to becoming a student research scholar. I mean, what a story. His personal story really touched me, as I'm sure it's touched many of you. And I think we all would agree that his work really highlights the importance of research in terms of learning accessibility and virtual reality. So, Professor Warner, I just want to say excellent work. Danny, I know you're going to join us right in after this part. But I just want to let you know, round of applause, for Professor Warner and Danny. I think great work. So for the next 15 minutes or so, I intend to ask our panelists a few moderated questions, followed by a Q&A segment for you to engage with them. So please make sure to ask any questions you like, because our students are super eager to hear from you. In fact, I recommend you to start adding your questions to the chat, and we'll address them during our Q&A segment. But Caitlin and Danny, I'm not sure if Danny is on the call again. Do we have him on, Ellie? Okay. So Caitlin and Danny, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. You could be working on assignments, research projects, or catching up on readings, among other things. And yet here you are to demonstrate your commitment to the donors who support your research and to engage our distinguished guests. So when I met you last year, I asked you if you would be willing to participate in tonight's program, and you said yes without hesitation, because it seemed like you wanted to personally thank our donors who helped make your research possible. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a series of questions, and feel free to take turns in responding to them. Caitlin, I hope you're okay with me putting you as a first runner-up, no pun intended. So the first question I'm going to go ahead and ask is, because of this research, what are your next steps? What is your ultimate goal for this research opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. The next steps for the research that we are doing now are to dive further into the mechanisms of how the allelochemical is disrupting the mutualism, and determine how features of the environment might influence when and how these effects will be strongest or most important for communities. It would be great to explore how soil moisture affects the mobility of the allelochemical. But my ultimate hope for this research opportunity is that I am able to turn it into my very first publication. It would lay a great foundation for all of my future work as a scientist. And I'm graduating this summer, and I am in the process of deciding what route I want to take, thank you, when it comes to grad school. So my next steps are exploring how the knowledge I gained from this research can translate into a topic that I can see myself pursuing in a PhD program and my next internship.
So considering that the work that you've done so far with Dr. Keller is relevant to your pursuit of a graduate degree, I'm wondering if you have any specific programs or universities in mind that you might want to share?
I absolutely am the most indecisive person that you will ever meet. I have no idea where I am going. Yeah, I plan to take a semester to really research exactly what I want to do and where I want to go, but everything is open, even if it's on like a different continent. I am all for anything. Anything's possible at this point.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. Follow up to that question too is question number 2. Due to the current situation with the pandemic and the restrictions this past year, how have you been able to conduct your research and interactions with one another throughout your findings? And how has this benefited or hindered your research project as a whole?
So in a normal situation, we would have established our plant project in the greenhouse on campus at CSUB, and then I would have tended to them there regularly. But due to campus restrictions, Dr. Keller was kind enough to establish a greenhouse setting at his house and grow the plants for my project. So now he tends to them regularly. We use tools that, you know, we're all getting used to, like video chat. So I'm actually able to see him collect data, and I'm able to see my plant's progress. And so we communicate regularly on the status of the plants. In terms of like benefits, ideally we'd be operating as a busy active lab as we were before the pandemic. But the situation has taught us to be quick on our feet and think outside of the box. For hindrances when it comes to the project, we did have to simplify our experimental design a little bit. Our sample size was reduced and we eliminated some treatments, but overall, my project seems to be fairly unhindered by the pandemic, mostly due to Dr. Keller's dedication to his students and the lab's willingness to adapt. I'm extremely grateful to be a part of this lab.
Oh, thank you for that response. I mean, it seems like there's some adaptation involved here, crucial to keeping the research going amid a pandemic. It also sounds like the collaboration between mentee and mentor is great. Any weekend meetings or anything like that, I can imagine that there has to be, but if you can elaborate on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dr. Keller is very patient with me. Weekend meetings, very late submission meetings at like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. But he always has like the best attitude, and I'm extremely grateful for it. I would not be here without him. So I got very lucky transferring to CSUB and running into Dr. Keller for sure.
That's great.
Just to chime in there, Caitlin had her SRC competition presentation that was due last Friday, and we were collecting data, preliminary data for that just that week, and so we were analyzing it. And so she managed to get the submission in, I think, an hour before the deadline, but it went in, and it's awesome. And so for all of you that maybe have an interest in the research that she talked about, she's got an 8-minute talk that's going to be, as Danny said earlier, visible in a few days here for everyone to check out. But it came together great. It's easy when you have a student that clearly is passionate and shows a lot of interest in the research. It takes all the time to read literature, dive into papers, want to discuss those papers. Things are a little bit different, but we're adapting. We're acclimating.
No, I think that's a very important point that you make, that interest and that dedication from the student really makes a difference. And I think adding to that too, how Caitlin mentioned, you go above and beyond to ensure that sense of the research experience is still there. So really thank you for that, Dr. Keller. Last question, Caitlin, for you is, how's the President's Associate Scholarship unique to the research you're able to conduct now?
Oh, it's awesome. A lot of uncertainty arose when the pandemic first began. And when all of the students were sent home, many monumental moments of my undergraduate career, like graduation and speaking with you tonight in person, had to be altered or postponed. And the scholarship funded by the President's Associates has preserved a strong representation of everything I've worked toward these last 6 years. I've been a student working towards my undergraduate degree for 6 years now. And so it may be the most memorable part of my last year as an undergraduate student, this research project of mine. In the beginning, we were not sure how the project was going to continue, but we knew that it would. And because the scholarship was steadfast at a time that we knew very little of much else going on in the world, it was the reassurance that I needed at the time, and I will truly be grateful for it for the rest of my career.
No, so, as I hear what you're saying, there seems to be a theme of reassurance and a sense of validation that you felt, from the donors who supported this scholarship, which I believe is essential, especially during a pandemic. I mean, in the past, you shared warm thoughts regarding our donors and the impact they had in your life. Some are here, others could not join us, but tonight, I think you had a great opportunity to express those thoughts to them in terms of how, their philanthropy really made a difference in your life. I know we have Danny, but thank you so much, Caitlin. I know we have Danny back on the call. So Danny, I wanted to ask you the same questions. Question number one: because of this research, what are your next steps, and what's your ultimate goal or hope for this research opportunity?
Hi, so second time. I just hope this doesn't get cut off again. I'm pretty confident it won't, but my apologies to everyone. I don't know where it get cut off, so it's just a little bit frustrating, but I'll be fine. My terms in terms of this research is my next step ultimately are to continue developing this game because it's not finished, and typically games like this take years, right? And I intended on making and providing this build for free to educational programs who would like to kind of provide an experience for their students. My goal is for this research to and opportunities to bring kind of more research and awareness and opportunities to students in the educational field, whether it be making it or experiencing it. And I want to be able to kind of to provide to anyone who's willing to just want to either get their hands on the blueprint or on the build or just the experience itself. And so I want to continue working on this for sure.
In thinking about the type of work that you've been involved with Professor Jeremy Warner, thinking about how some students you need an actual lab or, like in the case of Caitlin, a greenhouse. In your case, it's a different environment. Thinking about the pandemic, and then in terms of the restrictions this past year, same question for you. How have you been able to conduct your research and interactions with Professor Warner throughout your findings, and how has this benefited or hindered your research project as a whole?
So I think I'm the same as Caitlin as well. This pandemic kind of made things a little difficult because we had to just adjust everything. Because my original goal was I was going to go out to different schools, try this build on to different students with disabilities. I was going to go to every special needs program that was available in Kern County and test it and just get research and feedback to what symptoms are, what can I learn from this, and all of that went out the window when COVID hit because I couldn't do anything. The only person I was able to test this on and kind of learn is my little brother. He was the only person I was able to kind of test this out on. And it was nice. I mean, I was able to kind of spend a lot of my time with him by consistently calling him back into the office and letting him know, okay, what do you think now? How does this make you feel? What do you think of this experience? Because the build is a photography game. So I am teaching photography inside the game because this is what he wanted. And so, yeah, my original goal was kind of going around, but I needed to shift my entire planning for this. And I had to limit my testing to just my younger sibling and kind of rely on personal findings. And one of the benefits I feel like I just experienced was just being able to spend a lot of time in my home and with my family and my loved ones. And thankfully, though, VR production you don't need to be in a specific place. I'm able to do it in this room because all I need is a strong enough computer and just the commitment and patience to just learn, and someone who's willing to kind of sit by my side, which was my little brother, to continue building and making something.
Thank you, Danny. Final question. How's the President's Associate Scholarship unique to the research you're able to conduct now?
It's helped me tremendously because I don't even know if you guys were able to listen to it because I think I lost connection then, but one of the last core pillars that I had mentioned was performance. And I needed a strong enough computer to be able to make this because I can't build this on a $200 laptop, right? This is not possible. And so I needed a strong enough GPU to handle all of the polygons in this entire build. And so it's these sort of opportunities that I never would have thought I would be even in a position to even afford or make that kind of motivates me to, kind of fuels me to kind of continue pursuing this and want to make this, the scholarship funded by the President's Associations, it's kind of has allowed me to develop my own entire vision of a VR game and something that I never thought I could do. And, development in VR or any game, takes years and takes a lot of resources, and it's allowed me to invest into myself, into my own abilities and my own skills to kind of further these skills into resume or wherever it is that I want to kind of apply to as well. But it's helped a lot, and it helps students like me do something that we didn't think would be possible. And I never in a million years thought I would be able to even make a VR game And thanks to professors like Jeremy, who just kind of keep pushing me and tell me, just go for it, you can do it. And I hesitate because I'm scared. They just tell me, just do it, just go for it. And I think a lot of the support that we get as students, it's really heartwarming, and it kind of just it's motivating to continue pursuing this.
I think this aspect of mentorship that you're highlighting right now is very important, because when we think of faculty mentors, we think about it within that scope of work, right? They're mentoring you, guiding you in terms of the research, but then there's also that other side of things, that qualitative aspect of that mentorship, where you're building that relationship with your professor, and just being motivated and being inspired, to continue rising in your educational journey. So thank you, Dr. Keller, Caitlin, Professor Warner, and Danny. Let me say that your stories and presentations truly inspired us tonight. As we conclude this part of the program, I want to go ahead and thank once again our guests for sharing this special evening with us. As leaders in our community, your presence is very meaningful to our students, and we appreciate the time you invested with us tonight. For the next few minutes, our research scholars, along with their faculty mentors, welcome a few questions and conversation about their research projects. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to add your questions to the chat and we'll address them accordingly. UA team, do we have any questions so far? While we list those questions, Dr. Zalesny, I'm wondering if you would like to share some remarks regarding how this, these stories and impactful presentations, made you feel. Anything you would like to share?
Well, I've sent personal messages to the mentors and these amazing scholars, to the students. I am absolutely so proud of the work that you are doing. You've really put yourself on the map in your scholarship, but you've put CSUB on the map. To our mentors, you are rock stars. This is what we do at CSUB, is we support students to, again, give you the advantages that all of your talents bring to leveraging your journey. And again, I'm going to be following you every step of the way. I really am brought to tears by your stories tonight. And this is what President's Associates is all about. So to all of you, again, John and I are so proud to support this program. This is the program that really means a lot to us. I was a researcher my entire faculty career, and I know how much it meant to myself and to students. And I just applaud you on your discovery. So to our students, thank you for the impact. And to our faculty, you're rock stars. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zalesny. Thank you so much. Truly inspiring. One of our student research scholars said, truly inspiring. We have a couple questions. I think we have 2 minutes before our event ends tonight. I think it's fitting. One of the questions that was asked was from Dr. Stark. When did you discover your passion for research? If it was later, what might we have done to engage you earlier in your college career? So I could repeat it again if it wasn't clear. When did you discover your passion for research? If it was later, what might we have done to engage you earlier in your college career? Anybody want to take a stab at that?
I can go first. Sorry, Danny, I don't know if you were about to speak.
That's okay, go right ahead.
I will say that my passion for research happened when I took AP Bio in high school. And I knew that I loved all of these things that I was like learning about, and I wanted to figure out what the mechanisms for them were. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea that research was a career that I could go into. And so I think I reached college, and then one of my professors was like, research is a thing. You could totally go into it as a career. And I was like, this is it. And so I think just, telling younger students that these pathways are possible and they are there for you and that they exist it's going to mean more than anything, honestly, because you don't know what you don't know. It's always going to be that way, So definitely that.
Thank you, Caitlin. Danny, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, mine's actually pretty short because I think what motivated me was two things lining up perfectly. One of them was, as I mentioned in my presentation earlier, was the trip that I took with my little brother. That kind of grew a desire to want to do something about his limitations. But then what actually made me go for the research was Jeremy. He let me know about it. I didn't even know it existed. He's the one that pushed me for it because initially I told him, no, I can't do this. It's just too much work. I'm already a student. How much is this going to entail? I don't know. I don't even know how to make a game. And so he kept on pushing me, and he let me know about it. And so those two things lining up, and then me kind of getting the idea from the trip that I took, and just knowing my little brother, been living with him my entire life, is kind of just what sparked this thing to want to research and work towards it.
Thank you, Danny. Second and last question from Dr. Evan Santiago. What would you say to students considering research at CSUB? I know, Caitlin, you kind of touched on it, but what would you say to students considering research at CSUB? Caitlin, you wanna kick that one off?
Yeah, I would say that I personally did not know that CSUB was so well off in the research department. And I'm from Wasco, so I came to CSUB because it was the closest university to me. But I was overwhelmed by the amount of opportunities that we have here. I would say get to know a professor and just find a mentor find a professor that would love to get you involved in all of the research on campus. That's, I feel like, what was the monumental moment for me was finding Dr. Keller, because all of a sudden I had all of these opportunities available to me that I just wasn't aware of as a transfer student. I jumped right into CSUB not knowing where to go, who to talk to. But as soon as I found Dr. Keller, I found his lab, I made friends, I found everything after that. So definitely find a mentor. Just go out and get to know your professors. They're there for you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Danny?
Yeah, and on my end, the entire communications and especially digital media department has completely shifted from the first time that I came, because I first attended CSUB in 2010. And before I even left, it was different. I came back, it was an entirely new structure and new system that was in place. And I agree with Caitlin. It's about surrounding yourself with a good support system to let you know about what possibilities you have to research, to make connections. And Jeremy is kind of the one that kind of guided me into this research program and let me know about it. It's all about making good connections, and I feel like this sort of opportunity doesn't come often, and CSUB has many of them. And thanks to staff like our peers here and every professor here, a lot of these findings that we go through, it's because of them, and they guide us and then let us know about what possibilities are out there.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Caitlin. I think we've accomplished so much in the time we've been here and gained a lot of insight into the research happening at CSUB. This event is finished, of course, but it doesn't stop here. Soon it'll be time to have our annual President's Associates Donor Recognition event on May 6th, which is an exclusive event for our donors that you do not want to miss. If you've been inspired tonight and want to know more about how you can become a President's Associates member and support research at CSUB, I'll be more than happy to help. UA team, if you could please share my contact information with our guests, that would be awesome. Also, I plan to send you a recording of tonight's event before the end of the week, and you may respond to that email with any questions or comments you may have. We hope to see you again on March 10th at 6 p.m. as we close a series with the Schools of Social Sciences and Education and Business and Public Administration. The topics are going to be great: addiction and marketing research. So once again, thank you so much for supporting student success at CSUB, and go Runners.